I'm sitting here trying to get over this flu or whatever it is, I heard there was going to be a new Star Wars movie. Now, for those of you who told me to watch Star Wars, I did, what was it, a couple of years ago? The first one? Time flies. I don't even know what time it is anymore. The weeks just passed. But anyway, I did watch the first Star Wars movie. Watching The Mandalorian, at least the first 2 seasons, that made me interested enough to go back and watch the first Star Wars movie. But honestly, seeing the direction that Star Wars has taken and that a lot of popular movies nowadays have taken, I didn't want to invest in something that I would be disappointed in later. For example, when I start a manga series, like Plus Anima or Nui, and then you discover that it's discontinued or the author died or something, and I would like to know that there's an ending before I commit to something, or I'd like to know at least that there's a quality that is retained before I decide to embark on a journey with something. You guys might have seen my Land Before Time videos, and for everything that goes wrong with them in the later iterations, they're still far more entertaining than half of the movies that come out now. And I know that some people are going to get triggered over me talking about stuff like this, but I think it's important because the people claiming to represent the category that I fall in are not good representations of me. So if you have a problem with a woman speaking her mind about what she feels is a bad representation of her, then you need to park that somewhere else. Anyway, so I looked here, it said, the big problem with Disney's feminist Star Wars director. So I'm guessing there's this new director that's coming out. I wasn't particularly excited because Star Wars is not something I get excited about, especially after what happened with the last Mandalorian season. I was like, no reason to get hyped over almost anything that comes out nowadays. So The Telegraph is claiming that the future of the Force is in the hands of a documentary maker who has never made a big genre film. Yet that's not why the fans are angry. Another website continues with this, saying Star Wars fans rage, films will crash and burn after female director says, I like to make men uncomfortable. Now, seeing as her comments seem to be tied to her activism from her culture, and we all know that things are a lot worse for women over there, it's easily safe to assume that these comments that she made weren't particularly geared towards Western men or weren't geared towards men of the Star Wars franchise because this had nothing to do with Star Wars at the time. So there's a misconception with that, and I had to actually dig to find out that's what it was. But here is the problem. I understand why some people are upset, because this person is an activist for women, especially women who lived in Pakistan, and how they were being treated there. And people were probably concerned how you take someone like that to place them in the Star Wars sphere to write something. It's almost like they chose this person just based on that alone. Which understandably makes fans question what is the motivation for hiring a director to do this kind of movie, especially when she has no prior experience doing a film of this level or genre. And seeing as the media in the West tends to over-exaggerate the plight of first world free women in the West and misrepresent them in movies and entertainment by making them all angry and unlikable and bossy and constantly vilify or put down men in order to showcase us women as more powerful and superior, I understand the need for this discussion and why people might be mentally trigger happy when a studio that fully supports doing the aforementioned hires someone whose life is about going after evil men and challenging specifically men as a whole, especially when you consider that a majority % of the Star Wars franchise is geared towards men who don't take part in actions performed by the men she goes after in her activism. And for those of you who have an issue with me talking about a topic like this, if we don't set a narrative as consumers, people are going to continue, like these articles, these disingenuous shill articles, to paint all the audience members that are expected to spend their hard-earned money as the villains, apparently, because we're trying to tell the producers, the creators, that this is not what we want. The reason we're not spending our money is because you're not adhering to the lore, or you're focusing on the wrong thing. We want diversity. We want diverse stories, but you are focusing solely on the very things that you're telling people they need to be blind to in order to be more tolerant, which doesn't make any sense. That is the biggest conundrum ever. Also, if you're worried about why people are having an issue with this, it's because usually what happens in modern day film usually is when somebody professes themselves to be an activist first, they usually make their movies or their works with that in mind as a priority, and building the story and characters second to that. There is an artful way to do this, but it seems as though most modern filmmakers have no knowledge of how to do this, or it's very rare that you come across people who do. You can have something that's not so subtle and it still be a good work of art that doesn't feel like it's beating people over the head. And because Disney has a track record of this, and they own Star Wars and whatnot, and seeing as how all of their works that have come out in modern years images have been laced with this, it's understandable why people would be a little bit apprehensive over them hiring someone who says stuff like this.
I think at the heart of everything, I am a storyteller and an activist. And my body of work over the last 20 years has been guided by my activism. And every single piece of work that I've ever created has a piece of activism in it. It could be very overt or it could be covert, but it is there. And I think that as a storyteller, I'm not sure if all of you know this, but I'm not a trained filmmaker. So I never went to film school. I went to Smith College and did my undergraduate and studied economics and political science like a good Pakistani girl. And then I did my graduate studies, but also in international politics. And so I am an accidental filmmaker.
Now, I understand this doesn't necessarily mean she's going to come out and make a very bad film or whatever. She could come out and make a masterpiece. But 90% of the time, as we've seen with modern day filmmakers and people who proclaim to be this type of person, and they speak like this, it doesn't matter if this was from 10 years ago. I like how articles are bending over backwards trying to defend this when they are the same people who also dig up things that people say more than 8 years ago when it suits their narrative. You cannot be like, oh, this was out of context. This was 8 years ago that she said this, even though she still has those same viewpoints and is still making those same viewpoints. And we shouldn't have a problem with that or have that to base her character on when she's been consistent with that. But then again, y'all are the same people. For people who you don't like, will go back and dig up stuff that they said 20 years ago out of context. The hypocrisy is strong with this one. But anyway. So it says, new Star Wars director Sharmeen Chinoy has come under fire for comments she made about men during a panel for women in the world. Alongside Meryl Streep and Ava DuVernay, Obed Chinoy spoke with Master of Ceremonies Jon Stewart, I have no idea who that is, during the conversation when the comments arose. She's set to helm the next installment in the Star Wars franchise named New Jedi Order, which will be led by the female character Rey. The Pakistani-Canadian filmmaker is the first woman and first person of color. Oh god, I hate that term so much. You're basically saying colored person, just the other way around. Stop saying that. It's so freaking insulting. Why is that important? What? It's so cringy. Jesus Christ. Are we still doing this? Anyway, the first person first woman to direct a film for the sci-fi franchise. The panel discussion that has landed her in hot water was shared to the Women in the World YouTube channel back in April 2015, but has since gone viral following conservative commentator Matt Walsh sharing it on X, formerly Twitter. Does anyone actually call Twitter X now? Like, I know that's what it is, but who actually calls it X? That's so weird. Hey, I'm gonna tweet on X. Like, ugh. In a snippet from the panel, Stewart asked Obed Chinoy, what is the balance of activating a force for change, but also trying to permeate that patriarchy, that power structure? Are we being for real right now? And her response, I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable. But no, not you, she cuts in. Wait, let's actually watch the clip.
Is the balance of activating a force for change, but also trying to permeate that patriarchy, that power structure? And is that a part of the calculation of your art as well? And what's been the reaction to that?
Oh, absolutely. I like to make men uncomfortable. I enjoy making men uncomfortable.
Now, considering the time she made these comments, I'm mindful that she was examining this through the lens of her activism, particularly like how it related to men from her culture and based on her own personal experiences. However, for the Western audience, the primary demographic she caters to while directing a Star Wars movie, which largely comprises men as the majority percentage, it might be perceived by fans as inappropriate or like a misfitting. Given that Western society already experiences an abundance of activism in its entertainment and commercials, that often overshadows the importance of telling a good story or presenting well-developed characters, it's really understandable why people are reacting negatively or being apprehensive to someone who appears to prioritize activism, putting that at the forefront of her purpose, and is now set to lead a franchise that has faced issues with that in the past that people weren't okay with. I understand this was from far away, like this was a long time ago or a few years ago, but she's an activist. People went out of their way to hire this woman knowing this. They said, you know what? The Star Wars has a very high percentage of people who are giving us money who just happen to be men. Women like it too, I'm sure, but it's mostly men. Let's hire a director that likes to make our audience members, our consumers, the people who are giving us the most money for these franchises, let's make them uncomfortable. Imagine if this was the other way around. Ooh, I like to make women uncomfortable. And everyone's like, ooh, that director, hire him. Now, even if this hypothetical, if it came from a place where this male director was abused by women, I don't think the right move is to hire him to take over a woman-dominated franchise that had nothing to do with the realms of his activism, when you know that he heavily puts the biases of his activism in his work first. And it's the class for me from all the women that probably know nothing about real oppression, lauding her at the comment for taking joy in making men uncomfortable. Not the evil men, not those specific men that did those things, all men. Oh my god, I know, right, guys? I said something incendiary. Clap for me. I'm so cool. I hate men. Am I right? Trust me, some of you know about my past and what has happened to me since the age of 4. I'm probably one of the prime candidates that has the warranted ire towards men. But I understand that not all men do this. Never in my life did I imagine, you know what? I would like to make men uncomfortable. I would say something if I were to go into activism about bringing to light certain situations. You know, I mean, especially in our culture, it's different from Pakistani culture. I get that, but never in my life would I be like, you know what, I want to make all men uncomfortable, or I enjoy making men uncomfortable. And even if that's your thing, let's say that's this woman's shtick, you can't blame her based on her experiences. What would possess Disney to go out of their way to find this person who is very clear? She makes it very clear, and she's very open and honest about her documentaries and how she presents her biases in her work based on her activism. Activism is a priority for her. What would make you see this woman and be like, you know what, Star Wars franchise with majority men from Western culture, and this woman, what would make you want to hire her for this specific project? It makes no sense. Unless you're talking about, like, I don't know the Rey Palpatine character, so maybe if it's coming from the lens of that's the only thing I can think of, where if Rey is going through a situation like that, this woman has experience with that, so she's the best person to direct it. But from experience in Western made media, whenever people put activism first, especially when it's at the helm of the feminism thing, it always ends up bleeding over to a very uncomfortable level, but not uncomfortable to make men uncomfortable. It makes everybody uncomfortable. It is so fragmented and overwhelming that it no longer makes the story worth telling or worth listening to. That becomes the message. You ever have those freaking religious trick tracks? I grew up in a religious household, and for Halloween, my mother didn't want us to take part in the devil's holiday, whatever. And she figured, you know what? We can't give out candy and we don't want to participate, but maybe we can use this to evangelize. So we bought these things called trick tracks, and you would have these comics, and some of them had decent stories, but the message was so heavy hitting with the religious aspect that you were like, okay, this is clear bias here, because this makes no sense that this character would even do something like this. And you're left there wondering, okay, if this is the only thing that you get from this, the characters are so one-dimensional, the message is clearly the main part of the story, of course people are not going to see this trick track and be like, man, I just want to give my life to Jesus now. Like, that doesn't work that way. You have to be tactful with your message. So I understand why people would look at this, given the track record of Disney and the fact that they're already doing this in a very tactless way with their entertainment, looking at them specifically hiring a woman who puts this at the forefront of her productions and getting annoyed and want to tap out on this. And for people to look at people like this and say, we want to hire that person to make our movies, and you know this is their whole basis for existing, that tells me that this company hasn't learned anything, or they're literally trying to burn their company to the ground. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory. I don't know. But it just feels as though whoever has the reins of the company had a problem, who wanted to watch it crash and burn. They're like, you know what? I am going to drive this company so far in the ground. I have a vendetta personally against the person who owns this company, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make it crash and burn, as this article says. Because it feels like someone is taking a high caliber rifle or something and just on a freaking wooden boat and just bucking shots in the hull and all around the boat so that water can come in on purpose. Who goes around wanting to just destroy franchises? Even if it's male dominated. So what? Us women have so many things that are female dominated, and we expect our own spaces and don't want men to invade our spaces, correct? So why is it that we're trying to do that? Why is it that we're asking for equality, but yet we do the very thing to the person we don't want done to us? this. It's just very bizarre to me.
Not you, just
Not
you know.
you.
Oh my God, I can't stand black people. Not you though. That's what that's giving. That's what that's giving, bro. I like to make men, oh, not you, you're fine. Because, you know, you lick my snatch and do what you're told. That's what that's giving. This is ultimately sexist. Look at the girl in the middle, who the frick this is. She's like, yeah, not you. You know what we mean. Before anybody picks that up, because you're not an actual man. That's why we don't mean you, bro. I'm joking, but kind of not. This is kind of sad. This is why I talk about stuff like this. I know people get mad with me talking about stuff like this. And a lot of you come out and you're like, why are you doing videos on this stuff? You never used to be about this. It's because I am a woman. First of all, check that misogyny. I can talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. And if I am watching entertainment, this is an entertainment channel. If I've noticed that certain things are seeping through my entertainment and it's everywhere in everything I watch now, then of course I'm going to talk about it. I talk about bad movies and the stuff I hate about them. And if this is one of the factors about the newer movies when I'm reviewing them or shows, and it's really something I hate, I'm going to point that out. I've pointed out other things in some of my other reviews, like Land Before Time with like the racist characters and stuff. Nobody says shit about that. But the moment I actually talk about something that directly affects me, because that's how people look at women. And I've actually had somebody react to me, not saying this was correct, but I was talking to someone online, I was agreeing with the other person, and someone attacked me verbally. This had nothing to do with the conversation, by the way, but they were saying something along the lines of, that's why you women are like that, and blah, blah, blah. And I had to tell the person, bro, I understand where that ire is coming from, but you have to also understand that not all women think like that. We're not a monolith. But if this is the only narrative from people like this that's being put out there, being a representation of what women think, then all of us that don't think like that, who are probably the majority, are going to be painted like this. This is why I talk about it. And maybe the companies don't know. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and say maybe they have no idea what the frick is going on. We as the consumers, since our reviews are being scrubbed by some of these sites, have to come out and say, look, we want to give you money, but what you're doing is not making us give you money. We're going to take our money to some foreign companies and some of your competitors who are doing what we actually like. Not saying that creators can't have creative control, but I'm pretty sure people are going to be like, well, we don't know what we're doing wrong. You didn't tell us. Like, you got to communicate. Part of being humans is to communicate. And I'm sick and tired of this narrative where people are like, well, you only talk about negative shit. Yeah, if the negative shit keeps happening, communication is part of that. If somebody is your friend and they're doing something wrong to you, and then all of a sudden you stop going over to their house, and they have no idea why you stopped coming over to their house, and they're like, she stopped coming over to my house because she believes this and she believes that, and you know that's a freaking lie, and they're telling your family and friends that. Doesn't it make sense for you to stand up and be like, no, the reason why I stopped doing this is because of this? And if you're a true friend, you would tell them that before it got to that point. You would let them know, hey, I'm going to stop coming over your house, or I'm going to stop being friends with you if you continue doing this, because I'm not about that shit. And they still don't listen to you, and then you do, they're spreading rumors about you and misrepresenting who you are and shitting on your reputation. Of course, it is your right as a human being, or a consumer in this case, to speak up, not to have these people spin the narrative for you. That's why I talk about it. Fuck off.
Point taken.
But, it is important to be able to look into the eyes of a man and say, I am here, and recognize that. And recognize that I am working to bring something that makes you uncomfortable, and it should make you uncomfortable.
What? What are you talking? Are you the same people that have a problem with the male gaze, whatever the fuck that is? Like, why are you, I don't understand. Why are women required to make men uncomfortable for us to be powerful? Or for you to get your point across? Why is that your chief purpose when creating art? Again, imagine if this was directed at women. She didn't list specific types of men, she said men. General. If you have to make someone else uncomfortable to prove that you're powerful, you're a bully and you're insecure as fuck. That is narcissism. If you really are as powerful as you are, you shouldn't be required to make someone else uncomfortable with your presence. That's tyranny, actually. And I don't care if it's a man or a woman that does it. If you're the kind of person that walks in a room and you want people to be fearful of you and to be uncomfortable in your presence, that's not a good look, boo. Like, I grew up with that shit in my household with my mom. It was not a good look. It ruined ruin the foundation of a relationship. Other people I've known that do that shit, you know what happens? People don't want to be around them. They don't want to be associated with them. You can't really blame the angst from some of the fans who were seeing stuff like this, even though this was taken many years ago. The viewpoints and driving forces of this woman are still fresh based on her experiences, and I'm pretty sure, maybe I'm wrong, unless she's given full creative control, and even if she's not, I mean, seeing how Disney acts, it's understandable why Star Wars fans would assume that this next movie might be littered with very dense layers of activism directed at and against men, meaning men in general. Don't be surprised if they don't spend any money on your products. And at this point, people are still trying to say, look, we don't want this. And people have a right to be angry. They're making it seem as though the fans are crazy. Imagine if a Barbie movie or something that's female-centric, males came in the space. And they're like, you know what? If you're uncomfortable with this, I'm a man, and I want to make you uncomfortable. This is your space, but I want to make you uncomfortable. And if you're not uncomfortable, if you're uncomfortable with me making you uncomfortable, hold up. Wait, never mind. Anyway, regardless of the gender, it isn't right. You shouldn't be wanting to go inside people's spaces and for validation be required to make them uncomfortable for you to get that affirmation. That doesn't make any sense. That is going to turn people against you. And then you cannot be surprised when the fans or people come out and start hating you or hating what you're standing for. Just saying, I didn't think that this was rocket science, but apparently maybe these people didn't get past a certain education level or something. This is just weird.
Comfortable because you need to change your attitude. And it's only when you're uncomfortable.
Yes, let's re-educate you. You feel uncomfortable with me in your space trying to change everything that you loved about your franchise and your space. Let's re-educate you so you can feel comfortable. No, but wait, I like making you feel uncomfortable. So it's not like I want to make you feel comfortable. You're supposed to be uncomfortable and change your attitude to like that humiliation and the discomfort. Can't blame people for feeling some kind of consternation if this is the same energy that she takes when she brings into her documentaries and her art forms that she might take into the Star Wars franchise or anything she's going to direct there and after.
When you're shifty, when you have to have difficult conversations, that you will perhaps look at yourself in the mirror and not like the reflection, and then say, maybe there is something wrong with the way I think, or maybe there is something wrong with the way I am addressing this issue.
Okay, if you're talking about women's issues that you want to use a franchise to, I guess, help men understand, this isn't the place to do it. Make a separate movie for that. You don't take something from men and then say, I want to make you uncomfortable. Because I'm not saying this is absolutely what she's going to do, but Disney hired her. And she's an activist that has claimed she likes making men in general uncomfortable. I get it. I understand, given her background, why she probably would feel that way, why that's direction that her art seems to take. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt, right? Let's give her the benefit of the doubt. I don't know this woman personally. Maybe it's just the child version of me that's like, everyone is good inside. And I do believe everyone has a bit of good inside them. I do believe that the good inside of her prompted her to go down this road to try and help other women based on her background or her cultural background. I get that. And she figured, upon accepting a request from Disney to direct the Bets platform to spread this message in, was in a male-dominated franchise, because men watch this. Here's the problem with that, though. If her intent is to carry that over into the Star Wars franchise, which we can assume is her intention based on her comments she made saying, it's about time a woman directed a Star Wars installment, as if that is the primary objective to making a good movie, the basis being whether you're a man or a woman, this is the wrong place to do it. Because men that come here, they're not going to want to be preached at in a franchise that was supposed to be an escape from all of that. If you want to make a specific movie for that, then make a specific movie for that. And if you're a really good director, you won't have to even say things like this. You can just make a movie and have the message be there. I mean, this isn't the first time this has happened. We've had so many movies with female-led characters. And we understand through those movies, like Lucy being one of them, where men can watch that and feel sorry for what this person has to go through as a woman. Where they're like, damn, this is rough as a woman, what she has to go through. Without you coming out and being like, I like making men uncomfortable. If the man is uncomfortable watching a woman get beat to death and still be strong enough to do what she needs to do for her family, the message is conveyed without you having to come out and say that. You see, smart directors, like those men that you hate in the past, were able to do that through subtlety. True artists are able to do that through subtlety. You shouldn't have to do this because this is not going to make people watch your movie. So the message that you want to get out there for people to absorb and retain within their hearts, this is a waste of time because now they're not even going to watch it. Because now you've just come out and said, yeah, I hate you, audience. I don't want you to watch my movie. Why would they go see it? Why would they spend money on that to be uncomfortable when you've let them know you enjoy it so much? Maybe you should just shut your mouth or say things a different way, because this is marketing or PR. You're expecting to do this stuff because this was back in 2015, 2016, I think, when this was taken. But she was still doing documentaries and doing other things. You knew that you wanted to go out there and speak to people. You were an activist. I'm guessing she was going around on talk shows like this and speaking her truth. So you have to have some tact with it. Like, I'll give you an example. I always use examples. I'm sorry. When I was tutoring kids, because I love learning, but I hated how boring teachers would make learning. School felt like prison. And when I was tutoring kids, there was a little Bangladesh boy I was tutoring. He was very, very smart, but he just didn't like school. He was failing. And what I said to him, I said, look, I want to make teaching fun. I want to make learning fun. I asked him what he liked, and he told me I think it was Bionicle or something, some other stuff. And I got some toys and I drew some comics, like little short comics for him. I stayed up all night drawing him these comics so that he could watch or read these when I wasn't around, so he could study, quote unquote, have fun doing it. And then I gave him incentive afterwards, even after that. And I would act out certain things using puppets and doing skits. It was super fun for me too, because I was having fun doing it and using those little characters that he liked. And then after we were done with all of that, I would let him play with my handheld console, because he never got to play them when he was at his house because he was on punishment. So that was something, like, it was fun for him, and his father was so grateful. He said, you were the only tutor that he has had that he's listened to, and his grades, he started getting A+ in his tests. When I had to move, his father was so upset. He was so upset because he's like, now we finally found someone that our boy Sean loves, and he's doing well in school, and now you have to fucking leave. I felt really bad. I really did, but I had no choice. I was living with my family. I was still in school. But I took something that he liked and I tried to build upon what he liked and guess what? The message still got across. The science, whatever he was learning in school, that was the message I wanted him to ultimately remember. But because I packaged it in something that didn't feel like school, he was able to retain it and enjoy it. So if you do that with people, you can still have your message. If you want to really put a message out there to make people think, there's nothing wrong with that. People have been doing it for as long as time. But package it in something that people like. Don't come out and be like, by the way, this is what I'm going to do, and I can't stand you, and you're a loser, and you're going to listen to what I have to say and be uncomfortable about it. That is like one of those things that really snitchy helicopter parents do, or mothers, you know what I'm talking about. And it doesn't work. It ruins the relationship. Even if it does work, it ruins the relationship that you have with that parent, that establishment, that studio. And we've seen this happen time and time and again. So when you see the pattern of these studios doing this and it not working and it failing over and over again, even if the studios have an agenda for why they're doing this because they want to tank the company, you as a director, or you can't see this for yourself. You don't see the pattern and the trail of destruction that was left behind these studios whenever they do this, and what happens to people's reputation as a result. If you're an activist and you want people to listen to you and bring people over to your cause, how is this going to help? This is going to negate everything that you've worked up to. It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, outside of all of that, I don't feel like I even want to watch Star Wars anymore because of all of this, but also the newer movies. You have people trying to do that with the Japanese anime and stuff, the localizers and what they do. Is something I just recently learned. If you guys want to check out what I'm talking about there, you can check out this video that's attached to this one. But they need to really stop. I thought we would go into 2024 and things would start to get better, but these people are still full steam ahead. Then again, there's always that chance that I could be completely wrong. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.